Hi folks, this is Jay. Hope you're okay today. I just want to share with you about a book called Navigating Genesis, A Scientist's Journey Through Genesis 1:11. It's a paperback published March 1st, 2014, Hugh Ross. Now Hugh Ross is a very capable scientist. He's a Christian. He's an old earth creationist. I don't subscribe to that at all. But I just want to talk about his book just for a minute and some lessons to learn. First of all, it's a very wide reading, well researched book, but I think also it's a capitulating book, capitulating to the cultural norms of the time. And so I don't agree with all of the book. And so I just want to say that these people like Hugh Ross and the Biologos crowd, they are very sophisticated thinkers, and you can learn from them. You can get some good thoughts, good ideas, but also they're capitulating thinkers. They want intellectual credibility with the culture, and so therefore they will compromise, and you can't compromise on biblical truth. And the Bible clearly teaches 6-day creation. It clearly teaches that. It clearly teaches Adam and Eve were historical characters. It clearly teaches it. So no matter how much sophisticated hermeneutical methods that you come, and they will say to you, well, you're not being sophisticated, we're sophisticated, we have these sophisticated hermeneutical tools, and we can look at the ancient context of the ancient times, and we can understand Genesis better than you realize, and when we do, it's not like you, quote, fundamentalists believe. But actually all they're doing is using sophisticated hermeneutical tools and imposing their Western hermeneutical methods onto an ancient text. They say they're reading the ancient text in their context, but they're not. They're taking their Western, philosophical, sophisticated, academic hermeneutical tools and imposing them on the text, so that they can seem that they've got intellectual credibility in the West. But at the end of the day, it comes down to this: who's authoritative, God or man? And either the word of God is the word of God, or it's the word of man. If it's the word of man, then let's all just go to the local bar or local pub and let's forget about it. But if it's the word of God, we stand on the word of God's authority, and it's as simple as that. And what Hugh Ross is trying to do, and other thinkers like him in the Biologos crowd, they're mixing man's ideas and the word of God, and they want to compromise to man's ideas rather than to be faithful to the word of God. That's the first point. The second point is, I don't believe in obscurantism. I believe that we should do good scholarship wherever it is, on any topic, whether it be biology, physics, or historical studies. And so I welcome people like you, Ross, who are trying to grapple with the text, who do bring the best scholarship that they feel they can bring, so you can learn from them even though you can disagree with them. And I do think that evolutionists, creationists some are in danger of bringing Pat Hans's and bad scholarship. But I also think there are some good creationist scholars out there who are genuinely trying to grapple with the scientific issues of Genesis 1 and 2 and 3. So what I would say to everybody out there as Christians is this: number one, your loyalty is to the Word of God. Number two, study widely. Read Hugh Ross. Read him. Learn from him. There'll be some good stuff in it, even though there's some stuff that I think is not good and will damage your faith. But there is some good stuff in it. But thirdly, read other stuff. Read John Whitcomb. Read Zarafati, Dr. Zarafati or somebody from creation.org. Read widely. Study widely. Study deeply. Don't go for pat answers, whether on an evolutionist side or whether on a creationist side. And then finally, I want to say this: that in the West, science has been used as a power game against religion. But this has to be an acknowledged fact. It is often presented in the media and amongst the skeptics that science is this objective tool that is moving in one direction evidentially, and religion is moved on another direction unevidentially. One is anti-intellectual, i.e. religion, one is intellectual based on evidence, i.e. science. And this is presented, and this kind of meta-narrative has been presented to us from over 200 years since the Enlightenment. This meta-narrative is completely dishonest and false. It can be clearly tracked throughout the history of the last 200 to 300 years how science has been a political power tool against religion. And I can give you 2 examples or 3 examples. In the time of Darwin, his friend Huxley said we can use this evolution as a way of attacking the church, of getting rid of its power. That's one example. Second, the debates over the Big Bang theory. When the Big Bang theory was first being mooted and debated, a lot of people were objecting to it because they wanted to say that matter was eternal, and they wanted to say that because of religious reasons, because they knew if there was a beginning that would put strength to those who believe in the existence of God. And so there were debates by scholars about the Big Bang theory, and it was not about science, it was about the fact that they didn't want to give any ammunition for those who believed in God, and they reluctantly gave up their idea that matter was eternal. And now the same issue concerning string theory and the rest. All this string theory and all the rest of the debates about that is more political power. It's more about trying to make sure that religion has not got any influence in the public space. So they're trying desperately to undermine the Big Bang theory, because the Big Bang theory in a way is saying that there was a beginning, which then means we have to start thinking about, well, how did it begin? And that gives those who believe in God an opportunity to talk about, well, this could be a hypothesis. And so Strauss and people like that, Krauss and people like that, physicists, are bending over backwards to try and develop new ways of getting outside this issue of the Big Bang theory. So my point is that science is a political tool often against religion, and a lot of skeptics buy into that science is objective, but it's only objective if it fulfills the purpose that you as a skeptic want it to fulfill. Think about that. It is only objective if it fulfills a purpose that you as a skeptic want it to fulfill. That is a very profound statement if you just sit back and chew over what I've said and look at the history of science and think about the last 300 years, and you will find key moments in our culture where the rhetoric of science is objective has been a tool to attack religion, to keep it out of public space. It's not been about evidential base at key points in our history, in our culture in the West. So that means that we should all be very careful, all of us, be very careful for the mandarins on either side, whether it be the evolutionist, atheist fundamentalist of a Dawkins, or the fundamentalism of a Ken Ham. We should all be very wary of these kind of characters who are trying to frame the debate in their own particular way. We should be very careful and realize that there is agendas going on either side, and we must go deeper into studying and reflecting and dialogue and discussion on these issues, and that's what I believe in. I'm on the side I'm on the creationist side. But I don't want to be anti-intellectual, and I don't want to be crass in come up with crass ideas and thoughts. But I don't want to be browbeaten into positions that have no intellectual credibility at all. And this atheist fundamentalism that is pushed by Dawkins in the area of evolution, a lot of this isn't science. A lot of this is not science. It just isn't. And no matter how much you say that it just isn't. It is not scientific that you can't repeat and test the main mechanism for evolution. That is not scientific, and you can brow people till you're blue in the face and say you're an idiot for not believing in evolution, but you're an idiot for believing in evolution when it cannot be scientifically tested. You are the biggest idiot on the planet. You are. You're the biggest idiot on the planet when you're trying to be so dogmatic about evolution, and that you know that there is no evidence how life came from non-life. And you could try and decompartmentalize it and say that evolution is not abiogenesis and all the rest, and you're only decompartmentalizing it because you don't want people to really talk about, connect evolution with the first life cell. You don't want that connection, because you know if it is connected together, it's devastating to your whole position. But you know you've got no evidence for that whatsoever. You've got no evidence whatsoever for the first particle that ever existed in the universe. You've got no evidence for that. It's not science, for goodness sake. You can't repeat and test the Big Bang. It happened once. You can't test it and test it and test it. It happened once. So therefore you're living by faith. You can't test it. You can't test your position on how life came from non-life. You can't test that. And your biggest statement of all, that there has been this evolutionary process over billions of years, you can't test it. Nobody's ever tested it. Nobody's ever seen it. It's like a mythological story that exists, that we all have to believe, but we can't test it. And throwing up homology and all the rest of it is just nonsense. It's just nonsense. It's kind of like believing in a myth. It's like me believing in a myth that there were these Greek gods that walked the planet in Greece, and then I say, oh, but I have an oar of a ship, I can prove that there were these gods. All right. I have a shield, a copper shield from the Bronze Age of the Greek history. That proves there were these Greek gods. All right. That's the same argument that you're using for evolution. We can't test this thing, but viruses were passed on from apes to humans. Oh, really? Yeah. Right. Okay. If you say so. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Homology. That the apes are what? 98% similar to us. Right, isn't it? A banana's 30% similar in its composition to us, or in a sea urchin slug is like 80 or 70% similar to us. So what does homology prove? It doesn't prove anything. And at the key points of reproduction, are the apes similar to us in the genetic construction? No. So that's a big problem. I'm just having a bit of fun. The point is, the simple point is, read widely. Don't get into the rhetoric of either side. But I'm on the side of the creationist. But I want to go deep.